Episode 2, The Silent Coordinates. In this chapter, we follow the archive as they uncover the first measurable trace left behind by the missing stars, a silence so precise, it forms its own language. In the aftermath of the first vanishings, the archive expected chaos. They expected gravitational waves, bursts of radiation, or at the very least, a measurable distortion in the cosmic background. But instead, they found something far stranger. They found nothing. A silence so complete, so mathematically perfect, that it defied every known model of astrophysics. To understand why this silence was so disturbing, we need to understand how the universe normally behaves. Even in the darkest regions of space, the voids between galaxies, there is always a faint hum, a whisper of ancient light. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, permeates everything. It is the universe's oldest memory, but in the coordinates where stars had vanished, that memory was missing. The background radiation didn't weaken. It didn't distort. It simply stopped. A perfect zero. This discovery was made by Dr. Ren Hale, a specialist in deep space signal decay. Hale had spent decades studying the faintest echoes of the universe, the dying breaths of collapsing stars, the fading signatures of ancient quasars, the quiet trails left behind by drifting nebulae. He knew silence. He understood it. He respected it. But this silence was different. It wasn't natural. It wasn't random. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was the presence of intent. Hale began mapping the silent regions, marking each coordinate where the cosmic background dropped to zero. At first, the points seemed scattered, isolated anomalies across vast distances. But as more data arrived, a pattern began to emerge. The silent coordinates aligned along faint geometric paths, lines, curves, angles too precise to be coincidence. The archive's analysts layered thousands of data points, rotating the map through multiple dimensions. The pattern persisted. A structure was forming. Not a physical one, but a mathematical one. A design written across the galaxy using silence as ink. The archive called these regions silent coordinates. But Hale believed they were more than that. He believed they were markers. According to his analysis, the silent regions appeared before the stars vanished, sometimes by days, sometimes by years. This meant the silence wasn't an effect. It was a precursor, a warning, a signal that a star had been selected. The archive tested Hale's theory against historical data. They found dozens of silent regions that had never been investigated, regions where stars had vanished long before humanity had the tools to notice. The pattern was undeniable. Where silence appeared, disappearance followed. But the silence itself held more secrets. When the archive amplified the data, they found microscopic fluctuations, tiny variations in the zero signal. Not noise, not interference. A pattern, a repeating sequence, a code. The fluctuations formed a rhythm, a slow, deliberate pulse, like a heartbeat stretched across light years. The archive didn't know what it meant, not yet, but they knew it wasn't random. Something was communicating, not with sound, not with light, with silence. As the archive worked to decode the pattern, a new report arrived. A fresh silent coordinate had been detected. But this one was different. It wasn't in a remote sector. It wasn't in an uninhabited region. It was close, dangerously close. The silent region was forming near Epsilon 3, a populated system with 3 habitable moons and a thriving scientific colony. The archive had no protocol for this, no precedent, no plan. For the first time, the vanishings were no longer a distant mystery. They were a threat, a silent one, growing closer. The archive convened an emergency session. Some argued for evacuation. Others insisted the silent coordinate might be harmless, a coincidence, a misreading, a false alarm. But Hale disagreed. He had seen the pattern. He had mapped the silence. He had watched the vanishings unfold, and he knew what came next. The silence was not a warning. It was a countdown. And Epsilon 3 was running out of time. Thank you for listening. This was episode 2, The Silent Coordinates. Join us in the next chapter as the archive confronts the first disappearance that threatens an entire system.